As voice to the world, I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next half an hour. Johannesburg Declaration adopted. South African President announces expansion of bloc. 6 new members included. India says expansion will make BRICS stronger and more effective.
नए सदस्यों के जुड़ने से ब्रिक्स एक संगठन के रूप में मजबूत तथा हमारे सभी साझा प्रयासों को एक नया बल देने वाला होगा.
India takes its first walk on the moon as the Chandrayaan-3 rover ramps down from the lander. All right, first, let's get you all the updates on the 15th BRICS Summit underway in Johannesburg. All right, South Africa's president has announced 6 new nations are set to join BRICS. Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the UAE will join the 5 original nations. Cyril Ramaphosa announced the decision while delivering the Johannesburg Declaration during a joint press conference.
As the 5 BRICS countries, we have reached agreement on the guiding principles, standards, criteria and procedures of the BRICS expansion process, which has been in discussion for quite a while. We have consensus on the first phase of this expansion process. We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended congratulations to the new member nations, saying the move will make BRICS stronger and more effective. He added that India has always fully supported this expansion.
भारत का ये मत रहा है कि नए सदस्यों के जुड़ने से ब्रिक्स एक संगठन के रूप में मजबूत तथा हमारे सभी साझा प्रयासों को एक नया बल देने वाला होगा. इस कदम से विश्व के अनेक देशों का मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर में विश्वास और सुदृढ़ होगा. मुझे खुशी है कि हमारी टीम्स ने मिलकर एक्सपांशन के गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स, स्टैंडर्ड्स, क्राइटेरिया और प्रोसीड्यूर पर सहमति बनाई है और इनके आधार पर आज हम अर्जेंटीना, इजिप्ट, ईरान, सऊदी अरब, इथियोपिया और यूएई का ब्रिक्स में स्वागत करने के लिए सहमत हुए हैं. सबसे पहले मैं इन देशों के लीडर्स और वहां के नागरिकों को बहुत-बहुत बधाई देता हूं.
And PM Modi also talked about India's relations with all 6 new member nations.
भारत के इन सभी देशों के साथ बहुत ही गहरे संबंध है, बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक संबंध है. ब्रिक्स की मदद से हमारे द्विपक्षीय सहयोग में नए आयाम अवश्य जुड़ेंगे. जिन अन्य देशों ने भी ब्रिक्स से जुड़ने की अभिलाषा व्यक्त की है, भारत उनको भी पार्टनर कंट्रीज के रूप में जुड़ने के लिए कॉन्सेंसस बनाने में योगदान देगा।
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also said that India will continue to build consensus for those countries wishing to join BRICS.
ब्रिक्स का विस्तार एवं आधुनिकीकरण इस बात का संदेश है कि विश्व के सभी इंस्टीट्यूशंस को बदलते समय की परिस्थितियों के अनुरूप ढलना चाहिए। ये एक ऐसी पहल है जो 20वीं सदी में स्थापित अन्य ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस के रिफॉर्म के लिए एक मिसाल बन सकता है।
And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says that BRICS countries will continue to be a driving force to promote peace and global multilateralism. In his address, he also said that BRICS will be open to the new members.
BRICS will continue open to new members, and for that we also approved criteria procedures for future members. We also approved the creation of a working group so that we can study the adoption of unit currency as reference for the BRICS. This measure could increase our options for means of payment and reduce our vulnerabilities.
And addressing the summit via video call, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the adoption of the guiding principles in the expansion of BRICS will ensure that it will continue to grow.
I would like to mention it has to do with ensuring settlements between our countries in economic terms. I would like to congratulate new BRICS members on the full membership. They will assume their membership next year. Let me assure all of the colleagues that we will keep up with the work that we have launched to expand BRICS influence in the world.
And the BRICS Africa Outreach and BRICS Plus Dialogue was held in Johannesburg on Thursday. It serves as a platform for BRICS leaders to engage heads of state and government from the African continent and elsewhere. South Africa initiated the BRICS Outreach Plus Dialogue. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also attended the BRICS Africa Outreach and BRICS Plus Dialogue on the third day of his visit. In his address, PM Modi said that India has given high importance to relations with Africa.
भारत ने अफ्रीका के साथ संबंधों को उच्च प्राथमिकता दी है। उच्च स्तरीय बैठकों के साथ साथ हमने अफ्रीका में 16 नए दूतावास खोले हैं। आज भारत अफ्रीका का चौथा सबसे बड़ा ट्रेड पार्टनर है और 5वां सबसे बड़ा निवेशक देश है। सूडान, बुरुंडी और रवांडा में पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स में हो या इथियोपिया और मलावी में शुगर प्लांट्स, मोजाम्बिक, कोत दीवार और एस्वातिनी में टेक्नोलॉजी पार्क्स हो या तंजानिया और युगांडा में भारतीय विश्वविद्यालयों द्वारा बनाए गए कैंपस, भारत ने अफ्रीका के देशों की कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट को हमेशा प्राथमिकता दी है।
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also spoke about the global south.
वसुधैव कुटुंबकम यानी होल वर्ल्ड इज अ फैमिली हजारों वर्षों से हमारी जीवन शैली का आधार है। यह हमारी G20 अध्यक्षता का भी मूल मंत्र है। ग्लोबल साउथ की चिंताओं को मुख्य धारा में शामिल करने के लिए हमने 3 अफ्रीकी देशों तथा कई विकासशील देशों को गेस्ट कंट्री के रूप में आमंत्रित किया है। भारत ने अफ्रीकन यूनियन को G20 की स्थायी सदस्यता देने का प्रस्ताव भी रखा है। एक्सेलेंसी, मेरा मानना है कि ब्रिक्स और आज उपस्थित सभी मित्र देश मिलकर मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड को सशक्त करने में सहयोग कर सकते हैं.
And while addressing the BRICS Africa outreach meeting, Russian President Vladimir Putin pressed upon building a new multipolar world order.
We all stand for the building of a new multipolar world order, a one that is truly balanced and takes into account the sovereign interests of as many nations as possible, and opens possibilities for implementation of various development models while making it possible to preserve national cultures and identities and traditions. Let me stress, BRICS is not competing with
And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva welcomed South African Union addition to the G20 at the BRICS Africa outreach meeting.
Brazil will take over the chair of the G20 in December, and we want to put back the inequality reduction as the core of the international agenda, to reduce inequalities. We cannot do that without greater representation from Africa. So that's why we advocate the entrance of the African Union as member of the G20.
And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to hold bilateral talks on the third and final day of the 15th BRICS summit. Earlier, PM Modi met his Ethiopian counterpart and discussed issues of mutual interest. All right, we'll go across to Johannesburg now, where my colleague Amritpal Singh is joining us live. Very good afternoon here from India, Amritpal. First of all, tell us, 6 new countries have been added to the BRICS bloc now, and they'll be full members from January 1st. What do we make of this, and was this on expected lines?
Abhishek, yes, it is. The talk of adding new members, especially from the developing world, in this organization or in this grouping, was going on for a long time, and it was being debated. Over 20 countries had officially expressed interest in joining the BRICS grouping. Out of them, now 6 new members have been added at Johannesburg, at the Johannesburg summit. Now, that is a great achievement, one of the biggest achievements of the Johannesburg summit, that the grouping has been expanded. Now, what it means is that your collective weight of the grouping as a voice, as a forum of the emerging economies of the developing world has become strengthened. You already had about 42% of the global population living in these 5 countries who were till before yesterday members of BRICS, but now from today on, it's still these 5 members will come into effect from the 1st of January next year. So with an expanded BRICS, it basically means that more political weight to the voice, aspirations, concerns of the global south, of those who are developing, and therefore their increased representation and the need for increased representation in the global governance architecture, reform of multilateral institutions. Now, if you have bigger populations, larger part of the global GDP represented in a grouping, therefore you carry that much more political weight. So that is what it means, Abhishek.
But Amritpal, what do you think was the criteria that these countries have been added? 6 new countries, and others, like you were saying, over 20 countries had applied and they were not added.
It's an ongoing process. You see, it is not just about meeting the criteria and requirements. Of course, that's a given. They need to be emerging economies. Their stance need to be conducive to what the grouping is trying to the objectives, congruent with the objectives of the grouping, etc. But after meeting that criteria, what happens is there are different, within the grouping also there are competitive interests. You have to understand that, say Russia would be pushing for different members to be added for different reasons. India and China would have different objectives, etc. Now clearly, because it's a consensus-based organization, it depends, members can only be added if all agree. Now there was complete agreement on the names of these 6 members who've been added today, but all the others, deliberations and consultations will go on, and as more summits pass by, we'll see more members being added, because now the process of opening up the BRICS has begun. Yes,
right, like
Abhishek.
Amritpal, like you said, it has opened the doors for more countries to join BRICS, and second phase will be challenging. But before we leave you, Amritpal, tell us what really is unfolding right now as day 3 of the BRICS summit is concerned.
Well, right now the BRICS Africa outreach and the BRICS Plus meeting is going on. The heads of state are participating in it. On the sidelines, there are bilateral meetings that the Prime Minister is holding with his counterparts from mostly the African nations. After lunch here, the BRICS Plus dialogue will go on, and we could see a joint statement come out on how, what kind of consensus was evolved on BRICS Africa outreach to collaborate with the African continent, not just South Africa, which is of course a member, but beyond South Africa, with the rest of the African continent, and untap the potential and form a mutually beneficial partnership, strengthening a global South partnership and engagement with the African continent. Abhishek?
All right, Amritpal, will keep coming to you as we go along. Thanks for now, appreciate it. All right, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India's moon mission marches on after making a successful soft landing, deploys its rover to roam the lunar South Pole. Wagner head, who attempted to topple Russia's military leadership, was on board plane that crashed with all passengers killed. And despite protest action, Japan begins the discharge of the Fukushima nuclear power plant's contaminated water.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Namaste India.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind. Zari India.
Salam India. Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Mui
Nous
India.
sommes land.
Nahnu hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi hasti.
Mung Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Your name, Ina Krishnamurthy.
Yes.
It sounds so much like an Indian name.
My grandfather fascinated with Mahabharata, Ramayana stories, so he gave my father's name Krishnamurthy.
The handing over of the gavel by Indonesian President in Bali to Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Of course, it's a fascinating, memorable history.
What does Indonesia think is the biggest challenge in the Indo-Pacific?
We don't want this region to be part of any conflict, not unilateral actions.
How does Indonesia see the Quad partnership?
We see it as a plus.
Welcome back, you're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. A day after India's historic moon landing, Chandrayaan-3's Pragyan rover has exited the spacecraft and began its exploration of the lunar surface. Taking to the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, the Indian Space Research Organisation or ISRO confirmed that the Chandrayaan-3 rover made its way down from the lander. It means India has now taken its first walkabout on the moon. India is now only the fourth nation in the world to successfully land on the moon and the first to make it to the lunar South Pole. This historic event has not only solidified India's position in the space race, it has garnered widespread international response. Along with global leaders and international organizations, world media has also been covering this landmark achievement far and wide. US publication Washington Post covered the event with the headline, "India lands a spacecraft softly on the moon's surface." The New York Times said, "India is on the moon. Lander's success moves nation to next space chapter." And another main headline asked the question, what's next for India in space exploration? Reuters has called it a victory cry of a new India. Now in Athens, people of Indian origin express happiness after the successful landing of Chandrayaan-3. They are excited to welcome Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Greece. DD India's Meghna Dev gives us more.
So we are here with the Indian diaspora in Athens, and obviously a lot of excitement amongst the diaspora on the success of Chandrayaan-3. Besides that, obviously a lot of excitement in terms of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's arrival to Athens, which is going to be in some time from now.
कोई प्रधानमंत्री हमारे देश में आ रहा है, ग्रीस में आ रहा है, तो हमें बहुत अच्छा लगा है। और फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वांट टू थैंक फॉर एवरीबॉडी और इंडियन कम्युनिटी फॉर हिप हिप हुर्रे फॉर द चंद्रयान-3। इंडियन कम्युनिटी 10-15 हज़ार के आसपास है और सभी ग्रीक नेशनलिटी वाले और बाहर वाले सभी इंडियन कुजीन को बहुत ज्यादा लाइक करते हैं यहाँ पे।
We see butter chicken, we see naan, we see everything that's very much relatable to Indian cuisine, very much Indian, so that's what people relish here. So how do you see, the Indian diaspora here and Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming here, his global outreach in that matter?
Well, I can see the spark in people's eyes, like how excited they are to see our Prime Minister Narendra Modi here in Greece, and like everybody is so excited to welcome him.
How is the excitement? Is there a buzz in Athens of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's arrival here?
Yes, absolutely. It's a full of buzz about the Prime Minister Modi's visit. I am personally very much excited to know about the Modi's visit. So now that today with the Chandrayaan-3 successfulness, from now onwards, if at all anybody is talking about the space technology, they will see India is the person. India is going to lead the space technology.
In the history before Modi, and the India is not grooming, but now after a lot of decade now because of the Modi, and India GDP is growing too much.
Very excited. I'm visiting from the US and hearing the excitement and the Greece culture for welcoming Modi ji. We're very excited to see coming here.
Definitely a historical visit that comes after 4 decades, but definitely something to watch out for when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be addressing a beautiful community event here and talk to the Indian diaspora, which is one of his unique things that he does everywhere, every place he goes, to connect to the bridges, the living bridges between India and the globe, that in terms of the Indian diaspora. With camera person Shailendra Chauhan, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Athens, Greece.
And on India's successful lunar mission, the President of United Nations General Assembly has congratulated India. Paulina Kubiak, the spokesperson for the President, says this is a great achievement.
It is something that we kind of shared this morning. I mean, the President congratulates India, obviously. It was within the OPGA office, many of the Indian colleagues were celebrating that achievement.
All right, news just coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President of Senegal, Macky Sall, hold a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the 15th BRICS Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. And Russia's Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was reportedly on board a plane which crashed on Wednesday evening north of Moscow with no survivors. However, there has been no official comment from the Kremlin or the Defense Ministry on the fate of Prigozhin.
Russian authorities say mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as a passenger in a fatal plane crash. about 2 months after the mutiny he led that brought the country into a crisis. This unverified video from a Russian news outlet is said to show the moment of the crash. Reuters used satellite and street view images to confirm the clip's location, but could not immediately confirm that Prigozhin was physically on board the aircraft. According to Russian authorities, the crash happened Wednesday evening north of Moscow, leaving no survivors. 10 people were on board the plane heading from Moscow to St. Petersburg, 3 of them crew members. State media is reporting that 8 bodies were initially found at the crash site, with search and rescue operations underway. Data from online tracker FlightRadar24.com shows a plane heading northwest and then shortly after 6 p.m., suddenly disappearing. Prigozhin soared in prominence after Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year. The 62-year-old's fighters led the assault on the city of Bakhmut in the longest and bloodiest battle of the war. In June, he spearheaded a mutiny against Russia's top army brass. President Vladimir Putin said that move could have tipped the country into civil war. He was supposed to move to neighboring Belarus under an apparent deal to end the mutiny. U.S. President Joe Biden said he wasn't surprised to hear the news.
There's not much that happens in Russia that Putin's not behind. I don't know enough to know the answer.
There was no immediate comment from Russia's defense ministry or the Kremlin.
Sports updates now. Will start with chess. Indian Grandmaster R. Pragnananda drew the second game of the final of the FIDE World Cup against world number 1 Magnus Carlsen on Wednesday. The two players settled for a quiet draw in 30 moves after 1.5 hours of play in Game 2. And Game 1 on Tuesday also ended in a draw after 35 moves. But it lasted much longer as Carlsen tried to chase a win with black pieces. The champion will be decided in the tie-break match today. Pragnananda has been enjoying an incredible run in the tournament, having already defeated world number 2 Hikaru Nakamura and world number 3 Fabiano Caruana. All right, my colleague Narayan Singh is standing by to talk more on this. Narayan, what is the latest you can tell us? Has it started, and what time do we expect the winner?
Abhishek, if you talk about right now, the match is towards the first set or the first game of the this format. The tiebreaker is inching towards the end, and a few minutes back when I saw the board, both the players are just, we can say that on equal terms they are playing, and towards the end of the first game we saw that the Carlsen rode back with few good moves and with the advantage of knight, because he has 2 knights, and having a 2 knights on your board towards the end, it's an advantageous position. But we know that Pragnananda is a master tactician of the defense, and the way he defended, the way he in the previous 2 matches in the classical round matches, the way he just stopped the Carlsen, it was quite commendable. And here also we know that he can do that. He already defeated the world number 3, world number 2 in this tournament, and now here's the chance for him to beat the world number 1, the Carlsen, who was the world champion. He just after winning multiple titles as the world champion, he just gave away the title, and he said that just he want to enjoy the different formats of the game, different parts of the chess, and now he is playing here at the World Chess Championship. Let's see what happens here, and hoping that our player, the 18-year-old Pragnananda, the prodigy, will continue his rich vein of form and definitely give a tough challenge to Carlsen here.
Right, 18-year-old, like you mentioned, Narayan, versus 32-year-old Magnus Carlsen. Let's see who steals the show. Thank you, Narayan. Thank you for your vital inputs. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.